Hi, and welcome to the Wonkette Weekend Live Chat. I'm Robin Benaki, and this is the lovely and talented Stephen Robinson.
Hello, Robin. How are you today?
Swell, clearly not as bright as you. Um, I've actually been, you can see my eyes are red, and it's not because I stuck a mascara wand in there. It is because I have been crying for several days now due to the loss of my sacred blue check mark on Twitter.
Oh, so as we were
Tears have been
discussing
flowing.
prior to coming on live, I think they will study Elon Musk's Twitter destruction in sort of advertising or marketing classes down the line because I understand what happened with New Coke. Like I get what they were going for. There were tests, they were losing market share to Pepsi. It's like, okay, well, let's try to stealthily get in something that tastes a little bit more like Pepsi and we'll see what happens. And it blew up in their faces.
Is
And
that what it tasted like? Because I've always sort of wondered what New Coke actually tasted like.
no, there are I won't run them now, but there are hilarious Bill Cosby ads of him pushing New Coke, which is also a challenge for Coca-Cola. But I fundamentally Elon Musk is this sort of emotionally damaged person who, like, I guess, connected with a lot of emotionally damaged people online, and as a result, believed this whole idea that the blue check mark was some sort of elite status that he resent that people resented not having. So he would say, "Oh, I can give everyone this if they pay me $8." Which does not make it valuable anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was just interesting. I'd commented on this before. I think originally, if you had asked me to pay $8 a month for an edit feature, that
Hmm.
alone, maybe even boosting some of the stuff, because we're in this to get eyeballs if you're a struggling journalist. Okay, similar to like um benefits you get in for flying. I'm willing to pay a little bit more
Yeah.
for this. So this means that I can cut the line or do this, fine. But it just seemed like it was sort of, okay, well, now this will make sure that everyone's in the elite status, but that's not how anything works. And he then tried to take it away from people who had it, which wasn't why they had it. They had it so that celebrities could say that the person, tweeting anti-Semitic rants as Patty Lupone, or the person like stalking small children as Mark Hamill, is not literally that person. So if you remove that and actually charge them, even though they're giving you free content for that privilege, they are going to leave. They're going to then say, I think in Jason Alexander and others did, it
Yeah.
was like, if you see anyone with my name on Twitter, they are an imposter because I am literally not on Twitter. That was sort of a known thing that would happen. And for them to not realize this is just absurd to me.
Well, the thing is, like you said, he was very much in that bubble. And it was a bubble of people, I think, who mostly came on Twitter like for Trump and then saw that celebrities had uh the check marks and then saw that, random liberal journalists and, journalists in general, but they focus on the liberal ones,
Mhm.
also had these check marks. And in their mind, they were like, how dare these people also be uh like equal to celebrities? Like, how dare, it was this really like they were very angry about it. It was very much like how, this is obviously, the liberal media, controlling everything in the entire world. And they were very resentful of that. They weren't as resentful of celebrities having them as they were of people like us having them.
Yeah, and I recall the first time I encountered that. It was someone I don't follow on Twitter because he became pretty anymore because he became pretty tedious. But he was someone who let me just say, was from the Midwest and a New Democrat who's very proud of that identity. So I've essentially given away his Twitter handle.
I literally don't know.
but
Stephen has his
but
whole other Twitter circle that I know nothing about.
but he was very upset that, and the first time I even heard it was like used as a term, blue check marks. He talked about, I got into a tussle with some, black blue check marks, so other black people who had blue check marks, and his sense was that they were part of this elite who liked Elizabeth Warren, and who liked liberals, and he was of the real people who didn't. Because if you're a maverick, if you're a true maverick, you like Joe Biden. And it was just so weird. That's the first time I saw that. I was like, well, this is such a weird thing. Like, you're just sort of creating this separate entity. I never had made it a sort of, you are this kind of person. And I had seen that a lot. It happened again after the Chris Rock most recent special. And there were people who didn't like some of the things he might have said, similar with Dave LaChapelle. And there would be a sort of group who were like, oh, it's only the black blue check marks. So those are the guys, the people who are part of some sort of elite. They're not speaking for the real people. And it's just absurd. It's like, they're just journalists or otherwise prominent figures who, again, that what they're tweeting is real, because if they are in journalists, that they are, and that they can be held accountable for it. So
exactly,
it's not just that people have lost actors have lost their jobs for tweets. So clearly they want it to be that, well, that was me, I tweeted that, as opposed to some random loser. But going back, I've never, when Musk pulled the check marks, I have never seen sort of whatever status he thought it had, to see it deflated and destroyed so quickly is fascinating to me. It was just not even like,
it has no value now. And they keep it. The interesting thing I find is that they keep insisting it has value. They're like, no, I was verified. I'm like, no, you weren't. You actually were not verified.
No, you're not even verified as a real person.
Everyone uses their phone number to sign into Twitter. Like, that is a thing you can do. You can sign, I'm about to sneeze. I hope not. I'm allergic to everything lately. So they're not actually verified, but they keep insisting they are, and they keep insisting that it has the same, amount of validity as it did, which it factually does not. The reason why they didn't, why a lot of people did not get verified, even if maybe they should have gotten verified, is because they actually stopped verifying people for several years, or they stopped taking applications for it, because it was apparently too much work to actually verify people. So no, they're not literally with like this, skeleton staff they have. They're not literally verifying people.
Well, they're not verifying it's the actual person, or that you're not or that you're not a troll, or that you're not beyond. I mean, Ben Shapiro is probably verified and is a troll, but it is the value of it vanished to the point where now if you see the check mark, I wasn't assuming anything before, but people are assuming that it is someone who is a loser or a jerk, or someone they don't want to engage with. There was an attempt that Musk flipped out about, called block everyone who has the check mark. And so I think, which then he I think put one of his 8 remaining developers on the thing of go and then retroactively give check marks to people who had them. So he kind of folded quickly, even though it's very easy for me then to just block all the losers who bought your product and then go and personally unblock a major celebrity that I enjoy following. So it wasn't even successful in that regard. There was sort of weird potentially criminal stuff he was doing when he pushed for a long time. He had stated that after this date, anyone who has the check mark has paid for this service, period. They paid for that service, which would imply that it is I want to say endorsement, but I'm saying that I use this product. I paid for this product. And so since he sort of got guilted into admitting after the fact that he was, covering it for major celebrities and saying to Stephen King or LeBron James, "Thank you, I covered your 8." Well, they don't, they're not trying to save $8 a month.
Yeah.
They don't want
Well,
this
at first it
thing
was
that you
just
are
the people
forcing
who
upon them.
attacked him and, were saying that they wouldn't get check marks that he gave check marks to. And then he gave it to everyone with over 1 million followers. Uh, like, because he, is slowly, I think he realized that he promised these people that they were going to get to be like the celebrities, and they were going to be the new celebrities, and the celebrities were going to talk to them and, think that they were important also. And then none of the celebrities went and bought a stupid check mark, and they were kind of just like, it had no value anymore. And he's trying to give it value by giving it to those celebrities, including dead ones who could not possibly have paid for Twitter. Like,
Chadwick
yeah, I
Boseman
was just
and
going to say Chadwick Boseman is not paying for Twitter.
Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
It is
Michael Jackson. Like,
there really was no, I mean, whatever value he believed it had. So it's not about what we believe, it's what he believed. Whatever
yeah.
value he believed this had, he set on fire
Yeah.
within hours. Like, he's just an incredibly stupid person. And it has no, and I've admitted, before, if I saw a check mark, not like I'm status conscious
Yeah.
or whatever, but it would look, oh, this person writes for this publication that I follow or use. And mostly it's like, this could be useful from the sense of another journalist who gives tips for things, so I
Yeah.
can use for sources or whatever. So it was a useful thing. Now it just means and I think one of the best examples was like when actual celebrities, so again, Mark Hamill,
Mhm.
Linda Carter, who was literally Wonder Woman. That was a documentary in the 70s. She is actually Wonder Woman, Linda Carter.
Yeah.
And others had were sort of like, they were saying, we're not going to pay for this or whatever. And you would have these losers with blue check marks arguing against them, saying, why are you so cheap? Why are you not doing it? Essentially begging them, but ultimately because they have no social skills, right? So they are yelling at them and insulting them, but at the core of it, they're begging them not to leave the cool club. They paid, they stood in the line, they paid $10, they bribed the guy $10 to get into the cool LA club, and everyone there was like, well, what was cool about it was that, we could snort coke and it's all, no one's going to put it, it's like, because we can act
And
out
now
like a
it's a
lot of
Bible
that.
study, or
Well,
like now
yeah,
it's
it's
a
like,
bunch of Nazis.
well, yeah, and also these celebrity things, it was like, we can act out and not have it be on the front page of another publication next day. It's our little
Yeah.
club, right? And so once you remove that, we're going to bail. We're going to go someplace else where it's an exclusive little club. I mean, then, these places aren't inherently great. It is just that people started going there. And so
Yeah.
once they bailed, they're like, no, 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 please don't leave, please stay. And you just had these people with blue checks with 12 followers and, have not notable in any way, yelling at celebrities without blue check marks, to the point where it was just, oh, well, you flipped it. All you've done is made it so that this check mark only indicates that you're not a celebrity. And to the extent that before it was like, I don't judge someone who's not a celebrity. If I'm
Yeah.
talking to someone, I followed many of people who weren't blue check marks. The whole
Those
reason
are
that
the
people
people like
aren't.
who are not blue check marks, like, or
Exactly.
normal ones. Like, it was literally just a helpful thing. And the unfortunate thing about like the fact that he really is like just destroying Twitter is that, we were talking earlier about like the amount of social movements that have been able to fortify on Twitter, and the amount that like that has given them access to journalists, to or the ability to organize, the ability to draw attention to important causes. And that is one of the really annoying things about Twitter going under.
Yes, it's a great value for journalists of color, people of color. I got work on Twitter that I would not have through traditional means, because I was able to connect with certain people. And no, I mean, and the social organizing, if it was a diabolical plan, much like Lex Luthor or something, to waste a lot of money just to torch an outlet, a media outlet, and create a sense of disinformation, because I think state actors have come on. If that was his goal, oh yeah, that's evil, but
Yeah.
at least intelligent. If he was actually trying to run a business, he's the dumbest motherfucker ever lived. And it's astonishing what he's done. Everything and that Republicans will defend him, whereas if he was a liberal who was actively endorsing liberal politicians, and not just actively endorsing liberal
Yeah.
politicians, but picking fights with Republicans and picking, they would say this is clearly wokeness run amok, and you go woke, you go broke. And it's similar. He's doing that same thing where he's just, people don't, there was not even sort of plausible deniability about what he stands. So it became this sort of kind of philosophical stance of like, should I even give money to this guy? Which is not how you run a business. I know Republicans believe, just like with Budweiser, if you just include a queer person, that is the same as, the CEO picking fights with members of church groups or something. But that's not, it's just like, no, we want to
Yeah.
broaden our appeal, and these are human beings, and we would love that they drink our product. The Bud Light thing's intriguing to me, because for the longest, yes, Bud Light would be, light beer was often what women or different people use, like in the marketing standpoint. And suddenly the idea that they are marketing Bud Light sort of in a similar vein is causing these freakouts. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the sort of mentality that Elon Musk is seemingly promoting. And it's just absurd.
Well, I mean,
And
all of the, all the advertisers are leaving. I think Microsoft, whatever, just dumped them because their API costs too much. Like, it's just, everything is being destroyed. And it's because he's specifically listened to this one group of people on Twitter and thought, if I give these people what they want, this is the key to success here. And it wasn't that many people, as it turned out, who wanted things to be that way.
well, we've discussed this, Robert. So I know that there's this idea that, well, yes, in a big political sense, the right wants to eradicate or suppress the people they don't like or disagree with. And whereas on the left, most of us are sort of like, just let's leave us alone, do your thing, whatever. But in theory, they fundamentally can't exist without those people they hate. So once you remove that, they can't.
They tried so many times to create their own Twitter versions of Twitter and everything, where it was just them, and they didn't like it because all they wanted to do was troll us. Like, so there wasn't any of that satisfaction there. So what they wanted was Twitter with us on it to, like, harass and whatnot, and that's where they got their value. Like, that's what they wanted, and that now they have it.
Well, listen, when they block, they're freaking out about block the blue check marks, and it's like, well, that's because they don't understand free speech. They don't understand what free speech is. Like, well, part of free speech is free association, so people can choose not to associate with people who willingly bought this service, and they just want to, again, we just want to be left alone. You actually created a good way of eliminating most potential trolls and harassers on Twitter. So thank you to that extent. And they paid $8 for that privilege. Some of the people who were giving free subscriptions to Twitter Blue, and Patton Oswalt had done this, and others were changing their name, which would eliminate it, and then coming back as their own name, which get rid of the Twitter Blue thing. But they were even saying that this was like, he wouldn't let, he's like, oh no, you're still Twitter Blue for the end of the subscription. So it's just so just such desperation. patheticness.
I think that he didn't really understand that it would become uncool. Like, I really don't think he understood that. Like, I don't think he understood marketing or how marketing works. I don't think he understood that people, like, for the most part, just come to Twitter not to tweet themselves, but to, follow people that they are interested in, to follow celebrities, to, keep up on people live tweeting shows. Like, that's really why most people are there, not because, they're trying to become influencers or whatever. And so he was taking the value away, like the actual value of Twitter away from them, and
Mhm.
like away from everyone, really. Like, he thought he was just punishing us, and that, what was, I think, really what he thought was going to happen was that, his people were essential, that celebrities would stay the same, and his people would supplant us, like would supplant the liberal media, and they would become, the new intelligentsia. Like,
So like
yeah, their views would become normalized.
but it's just 4chan. I mean, and some of that can happen. The
Yeah,
problem is like no one trusts that information, so you wind up losing
yeah,
on NPR. So we're not going to pay. We're going to leave, and other organizations are going to leave, and so there is essentially you're getting to a critical mass. I mean, I don't know if some of the options out there will prove to be that critical mass, but you're creating a situation where what helps an opponent is to have that critical mass of defections.
yeah.
So you pissed off enough people. It's very hard. I mean, it's sort of, again, it's a new Coke thing. If you do something so big that pisses off enough people, you really do compromise yourself, because it's no longer drips and drabs.
I
It's
mean,
like a
that's what
whole
happened with
flood.
MySpace. Like, Rupert Murdoch bought it, and everyone was like, "See ya, Facebook is there." Like, and the problem is that we don't really have that. Mastodon is freaking confusing, and other sites are maybe not super hospitable to sex workers, and a lot of the people that kind of make Twitter pretty good are people who are going to support sex workers and aren't going to go to a place that excludes them. And so that is, a problem. There needs to be some sort of like good, if someone can legitimately come up with a Twitter that does exactly what Twitter does and prioritizes information and, accurate information, uh, that's going to be there's going to be a huge transfer of people over there.
But didn't he fire everyone? Can't you just hire them? And that's Twitter, to
Yeah,
speak as a labor person, because
agreed. The
because your
workers should own
company
the
is
means
the
of production. The
workers.
reason the workers should own the means of production, they say, is because the workers literally know how things work more so than the owners. Clearly, in this case, very clearly.
Well,
Um,
his ideas are terrible. He never had like one good idea, because that was always the sense of where, Lex Luthor is evil and he's running for things, but it was not just, it's like, I didn't just put my name on buildings, I invented hover cars. And it's kind of like, okay, well, sure, you try to kill Superman a couple times, but I love this hover car. Wow, this
yeah,
guy's great. And, whatever other cool gadgets he comes up with. But Musk contributes literally nothing to society. Like, he is
yeah.
one of the, I compare him to sort of other. If you think about, as annoying as the royal family is, and there's certain things, I mean, they try to at least dress it up as being okay, where we devote ourselves to service. Where Musk is just trying to present himself as someone who, I am very good at what I do, which is not.
It's not really true. Like, it's not. He's not actually very good at anything. He's good at being a, weird rich guy who is a troll. Like, that's really his primary skill set.
Yes, it's the movie where his character is usually, it would have been played by Hugh Grant, but there's no Sandra Bullock assistant who he fired, or she got pissed off and left, and he comes to her and makes some grand gesture, and she comes back and then saves Twitter, because she's essentially running Twitter the whole time. Like, there's no, so many movies, TV shows have that, of where the clueless guy is being basically propped up by a person of color or woman,
Mhm.
and there is no such support for Musk. He's out there himself, screwing up everything. Um, yeah, so, someone had just noted in our live chat that the Tucker Carlson interview, which I did not watch, with Musk, where that obviously does not. If you're a business person, again, Tucker Carlson's very good making money in his niche realm, but I mean,
He can't
Twitter,
take his
the
show on
people,
the road.
the users of Twitter, a lot of the users of Twitter, if you look at the demographics, a lot of the celebrities who bring worth to Twitter, they, it's hard to boycott Fox because of how Fox is sort of part of every sort of cable package and that type of thing. It's very hard to penalize them directly, but it's very easy to be like, look, we don't, some going to Tucker Carlson's audience of shut-ins. So you think who was watching that? Like 80% of those people don't have Twitter, wouldn't know what the F of Twitter was. Or, so you've got like 10% of people who are already on your side, and everyone else is just another link of like, I don't want anything to do with this organization that is run by this guy. He is the biggest liability to Twitter. And he had
Oh,
once talked about stepping down as CEO and having someone else who's normal. So again, that would have been the Sandra Bullock character or something. Or the
I don't
but
know
he
what movie
didn't.
it is you're referencing.
There's a whole thing of movies
Oh, okay.
like that. It is just basically the white guy who is very bad at his job, and things are being run. It is only things are being competently run by his assistant, who is a woman,
Gotcha.
or a person of color. But yeah, there's no such thing here. So he's only alienating more and more people. Whenever I go, I look for someone sometimes. Like, I haven't heard from this person in a while, and I look and they're gone, and
No,
they're
a lot
often
of people are gone.
their last tweet is like F Musk, or I'm gonna leave on the date where this blue check thing goes away. And we've talked about this in politics as well, where there's this whole sense of, you know, people didn't like certain third party voters. And I was like, okay, well, fine. But if they were decisive to the election, I don't think you're going to win them over by yelling at them. I
Yeah.
mean, that makes you feel good, sure, but all you achieve is they either, because people are petty as fuck, right? So
Mhm.
if they would rather burn it down than be told that they're idiots, that's just a human instinct. So you could try to reach them. And so this whole thing has been to yell at celebrities who've left or who won't pay for this. There's no kind of, oh, well, here's how we can make this better for you. Here's how we can sell this. And they just botched the whole launch. I don't think there
Well,
was
they're
any
trying the whole
celebrity.
like, oh, these elite people, the elite don't want to pay for their Twitter badges. And what they're really mad about is that they won't pay to be like them. Like,
Sure.
they're mad that they don't have like so much with the right in general is just seething anger that they do not have the social power that they believe they are entitled to. They, everything is they get, oh no, people who are oppressed are having they have more social power than I do. That's what intersectionalism means. The more oppressed you are, the better you are supposed to be than me, because everything they do comes down to, oh, these people think they're better than me. And that is their primary motivation. And so now they're trying to make it out like, oh, all of these elites, are, shunning this because they don't want to be like me. But what they actually want is for the quote unquote elites to want to be like them, to be like, they want to be aspirational and they're not aspirational.
Yeah, there was one
I'm not saying I
person
am, but
who was comparing the people who are like, I'm going to now block all the blue checks. He was comparing that to the blue check to the Star of David during
oh yeah, yeah. That guy was a
Goliath.
romance guru. There's a weird amount of, I said this in my post today, weird amount of romance gurus.
And some have said similarly, because they all have this victimization process. So they pretend that racism never existed or sexism existed, but then when they, as mediocre white people, feel any prejudice, they seem to have a bag of all this stuff that apparently wasn't an issue. It's going to be very unfortunate for them when kids don't know what anything they're talking about means, because they've banned the teaching of racism. But they'll say, oh, it's just like all these celebrities leaving because they don't want to be like us. So the blue check marks is like when they integrated schools and there was a neighbor and there was white flight, or people left public pools because they had to share it with Black people and instead went to, yes, and those are crappy things. These are not similar in any way. It is just like, I don't want to pay for this
hang
service.
around with Nazis and scammy love gurus is not exactly the same thing as discriminating against people for like the color of their skin or their religion. And one thing I found really interesting is that someone said to the E6 guy, or that, oh, have fun in your echo chamber. And like the thing is that these are the people who desperately want homogeneity in life. Like they want Christian nationalism. They want the entire world to be forced to be like them. But they, they don't want anyone else in an echo chamber because then they can't hear their beautiful thoughts. And that is very much it's almost like they don't totally know what they believe. Like there are people being like, oh, these people are going to be surprised when we tax the rich. Like, no, you don't even want to tax the rich. That is your like political position that you have held for a bajillion years now. And now all of a sudden, oh, they're going to hate it when they get taxed by people other than us that they probably voted for.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre. And I think, people ask, even though I'm sure so far of our chats, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Clarence Thomas, but Marjorie Taylor Greene have gotten the most views when people say, I don't want to hear about Marjorie Taylor Greene, I want to hear about a very specific policy point, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene will get 3 times the viewership or readership if it's a post. But similar to this, people are wondering, why do you talk about Twitter or Musk? And this, as we've said before, about how it's used for activism, but it's a tremendous resource. And this guy setting it on fire right before the election or actively using it to promote disinformation is a big deal. It seems like weird to me that, like, why do you care about Musk, a right-wing zealot, torching Twitter, this site, when often from the same people who believe that, rightly, Russia interfered with the election in 2016 and cost Hillary Clinton the election because of disinformation and so forth. So I just don't, it is a big deal what he is doing. It's beyond, we joke about it, but it's a big deal. Like the sites,
because so many news sites are now subscription only. Like BuzzFeed News just went under, and they were one of the few free sites along, Wonkette is free, but you should give us your money instead of giving it to Elon Musk. But Twitter was one of the few places where there was like access to news and information for people that they didn't have to pay for.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you didn't want to buy a subscription to the Times or the Post, their reporters, and they're on there, same in NPR as well, they would often give a breakdown of what they're writing about. And so you could get a sense of the news, by reading some of these reporters' tweets. And so if they're gone, stuff that was happening in real time. So if you didn't have access to television, or if you were, or if you worked, so like, let's say you are working somewhere without television or something, you knew when the Capitol is being attacked. Like literally, you could just find out in real time on Twitter. So that was a very useful resource that he has now compromised and destroyed. And I think a lot of he's opened it up to a lot of state misinformation from bad actors.
Absolutely.
So this is a not great that we are entering an election cycle with this sort of without having that resource and with him behind the wheels. Though I don't know how long. I mean, I think he sold thousands. No, he's made thousands of dollars from Twitter Blue.
Yeah.
And I think he paid a little bit more than that for Twitter. Uh, so I don't know how long he could afford to keep this running on fumes. And hopefully there's like we're told there's good billionaires, right? So maybe one of the good ones. We're told that, Robin. We're told that. So maybe one of the good ones will, like everyone. I mean, I feel like if you took everything that was spent on go nowhere campaigns, so like Amy McGrath in Kentucky against Mitch McConnell, with love to the brother Jamie Harrison in South Carolina, because I'm from South Carolina. I knew he was not going to win. So you take a lot of this money that got raised, Beto, raise a lot of this money, take that money, buy Twitter, make it a useful site again, and maybe that would be a solution to this problem.
That would be lovely. Until then, hopefully someone just comes up with a new one. Like I don't even know what to do. It freaking sucks.
Well, maybe perhaps there was sort of non-compete or something that those guys had. I don't know why everyone who fired just didn't do their own thing, because again, they are the ones who were making it Twitter. Elon Musk truly offers little to it. Again, to invoke comic books, it's like when Lex Luthor buys the Daily Planet. But, obviously all the good reporters will leave, but you're going to get some people, I guess, who stay. I mean, but he even tried to run it more competently. Elon Musk did. Elon Musk was just, I think, is really, really bad at everything.
Well, I mean, honestly, this is what venture capitalists do when they take over websites. Like we've seen it happen to a bajillion news sites so far. It's not surprising that it's happened with Twitter the way that he's done it. They all come in and they're like, oh, we're paying these writers way too much. Let's replace them with, some 21-year-old interns who will do work for $15 a post. And it'll be great. And the same people will come because they're just, they don't really care what people are writing. They, are just there for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And every single fucking time it fails.
It's
failing. That's something that happened with a site that I used to work at. The guy actually replaced it entirely with pay-to-play web articles. And no one goes there anymore or even knows what it is. Like when it actually used to be a relatively popular website, but when I now say like, oh, I used to work at the Frisky, people are like, I have absolutely no idea what that even is. So, and that's what happens because the internet has a very short memory in certain ways.
No, and it's unfortunate. A lot of these places are going under. Wonkette's not immune for that. So I do believe in paying for the stuff you read. So subscribe and whatever. But I think because when people will say, I hate that, and even the New York Times, I hate that I have to pay for this. Well, people, the writer, the staff has to live, right? So you need to find a way.
Here's the thing. Ad blockers and people being mad about clickbait basically made, and Facebook and a ton of other things basically made it really difficult for the ad model to continue.
Oh yeah, well, YouTube has YouTube Premium, and again, similar for like how Musk could have actually made money, right? Was that okay? I'll get YouTube Premium so I can watch my West Wing videos or old Avengers videos without commercial breaks, and I'll pay whatever is extra for that because I feel that's fair, and I believe that money is then, it's like I'm not freeloading. Okay, fine. Similar to like Twitter Blue could have been rolled out in a way of like, oh, I would love to get an edit function so that, because it seems like every time any of the times my tweets often when they go viral, it's like with some embarrassing typo, you've got to like choose between the world seeing your horrible typo or like deleting the one that BB Newer retweeted. It's like, well, I can't. No. Let the world know I'm stupid, but I can't like. I can't take that away. So I would have paid. I said, sure, if he'd rolled that
Yeah.
out. It's like, oh, all right, $8 a month. I do this
I
professionally.
absolutely would have paid for an edit button. Like, honestly, like, I, there are a lot of things that people would have legitimately paid for. He had to make it crazy, and because he
Yeah.
wanted to own the libs. Congratulations, you own us now. I
And
don't
and
know
he
what
made
you
it
want to do, but
unusable. There are some functions. I mean, Shannon Watts still has a for Moms Demand Action. She's wonderful. She still has a blue check mark, but it's not for those reasons. Because part of what she does, it gave access to a tool that is necessary for her to do her job efficiently. And now at this, because he's poisoned it, it's just like, okay, well, now she's either getting blocked by people, or people think that she's someone who pays for Twitter. Like, literally, when you take your product, like the CEO of McDonald's somehow making the Big Mac the least cool thing possible, beyond what people think. But it's just like, well, no, I brought in someone to, that cool raps, that cool song in your head you think of with the Big Mac or whatever. No, I'm gonna have someone record one that's like really disgusting and makes you like, oh, I don't want to eat this. Like, he's actually just sunk this. And I just don't get it, other than the fact that what entitled rich white people could get in life very far than they really deserve to be, because Elon Musk is one of the dumbest people I have ever encountered. Like, it's not about his politics. He's just, no choice he's made, no business decision he's made has been smart. And I think going back, because I think after this we'll talk about whether you want to cover the labor secretary confirmations things with that's going on right now, where they're upset that someone who supports labor wants to be labor secretary. But
well, that's just rude.
but yes, this sort of idea of like, the people who run things so don't fundamentally understand how they should be run, or our belief that someone like him, because he's a billionaire, I guess he must know what he's doing, and the revelation that he does not was shocking for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, America has very much like been built on, the reason these people have that money is because they deserve it, and because they are so incredibly brilliant that they just, they deserve infinity money. And, it's very awkward for some people, when that veil is lifted.
No.
Because they, because otherwise the country as it's being run does not make sense. Unless, rich people are special and, whatever, basically godlike, then the way our country is run does not make sense. It really, like, hey, why doesn't everyone get health care? Oh, no, only rich people get health care because they're special. So,
yeah, I mean, Musk as a sort of corporate titan has sort of come in. And I mean, the biggest thing it always pops into my mind was when he fired the custodial staff without thinking, and like the place just degenerated, and there were like prairie dogs and the tumbleweeds, I think, going in within like days, because big places get very filthy quickly because human beings are terrible. Without, and to not realize what would happen is such a sense of, you have no respect for what makes your company run or work. And especially because you're not making tons of money.
Like, we can cut everything and everything will work better. And that is, also how the Republicans view government. So they thought it would work with Twitter. Well, just fine. These people are unnecessary and probably being paid to do nothing because some liberal person wanted to, just hand the money for no reason. I'm only keeping the people that I think are necessary, but I don't know who actually is necessary and is not necessary, and why they are necessary, because I don't care to find out.
Oh yeah, I mean, in my corporate days, it's in those meetings when you talk about cutting, you would see of where it's easier to cut statistics So once you get to
Mhm.
4 or 5 levels down, then it's like that department. Oh, they're gone. Fine. Who needs them? Right. And then, for most people, not everyone, some people are awful, but usually, if you're in a meeting and I worked for you, you'd be like, oh, well, oh my goodness, we can't cut people who, Steven's job because that affects my job
Yeah.
directly. I understand that. And oh no, I know he has a kid, so he needs the health care. It's the whole Tiny Tim syndrome. Because in our
Mhm.
world now, Scrooge is so far removed from a Bob Cratchit. Like, who cares? Like, you couldn't connect with them because he doesn't know these people.
Yeah.
He doesn't know like how it's just like, okay, get a healthcare plan that only half your employees will be eligible for, and because they're on um, contract employees, and the health insurance isn't very good, and you're not going to know a human being died because of that. They're not going to be
Yeah.
aware of it. And so I think that's always been sort of the corporate thing, except Musk in a situation, I'm sure, had people telling him this is what will happen, more being like, you probably need people to clean our toilets. We're disgusting, please. I'm also
Yeah.
like, we can't function if you cut all these engineers, if you cut all these people. And his whole thing was just like, oh, well, we're losing money, even though he's done more to lose advertisers, lose money. He should fire himself,
Yeah.
and the company would grow in value. The fact that he doesn't realize that he himself is the worst impediment, or that he himself, like his whole blue checkmark thing, is like, other people. Um, and before we leave, I don't. You probably are not a Red Lobster person, right?
I have been to Red Lobster one time, but
So
I grew up in New England, so you had cheaper places, honestly. Like, and my sister and I went there during the end of the pandemic, and we were not pleased with the Admiral's feast.
So there was one of their marketing
Biscuit.
directors or whatever. Their big thing was endless shrimp, and at the time I was working at the Nielsen, so I was doing their commercials. But anyway, they had endless shrimp, and it did very well. People, whatever. And then the next year, it's like, okay, what's your next plan? Like, what's your sequel to endless shrimp? It's like endless crab,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, well, shrimp is very cheap, and half of that wasn't shrimp. So like we were really saving a lot of money.
Yeah.
Crab is like, you really want to? I don't think this can be endless. And
Oh,
so
how
it's like,
much
no,
crab I'm like, I can eat a lot of crab,
no,
but I
they
need
they
like
lost
two,
a lot of money,
two
and
snow
she
crab
lost her
claws,
job.
and I'm like good. I don't need to eat any other food on top of that.
See, you're not of
Like,
the buffet. Well, there is the theory of the buffet that people will be so excited by it they'll pay, like, you could charge twice what someone buying 2 servings of something would be, because they feel like, oh, I'm going to eat so much, but
yeah,
instead they don't really, they just get,
because they cannot physically do that.
yeah. But they feel as if they could, so they'll
Yeah.
say, oh no, this is the best deal, $25
That
for
is
the
really the
Indian
story of
buffet.
me at crab night, though. Like, like,
but
no,
here,
I'll also have some calamari. This is fine. Um, I will definitely
yeah,
do this.
the calamari is also not really calamari. Also, that turned me off calamari for a long time. That was a horrifying story.
I
So
didn't know about that, and
you don't need to know. Just keep eating calamari and be happy, Robin. I love you and want you to continue. Don't 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 be me. I lost calamari, and I don't want anyone else to
no,
lose it. So your ignorance, savor it. Savor your ignorance about what calamari actually
no,
is and what you're
no.
eating.
Is it made out of people?
No, you are much happier this way. You are
No.
much happier right now than I am, believe me. So go out and get some calamari. And that is true of everyone watching this who does not know what I know. Go go and enjoy your calamari. I wish I could be like you again. I really do. I miss it so much. But there's no going back for me. But for you, enjoy calamari. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Now that I am traumatized and terrified. Uh, uh, that's going to be it for today. I think we should call it a wrap on that.
Goodbye. Take care.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye.